to Printed Threads Showroom Sounds. This is a series we started, I think, almost exactly a year ago, where once a month we have someone come in, someone interesting, maybe someone you haven't heard before, but someone that we know will be really good to come in and perform for you guys and just have a good time, have some good drinks, some good food, and walk away with a t-shirt and a poster, because that's what we do, is print lots of t-shirts here at Printed Threads. But this is called Showroom Sounds, and we're so thankful that you're here. Be sure to follow us on the socials at Showroom Sounds and also showroomsounds.com to see what's coming next. We have some really cool people that I'm really excited about, and we've had some amazing people in the past. And one day, some of these videos will get released and a little music series that we'll create so you guys can relive these moments again. But it's a pleasure to introduce an artist that's done a lot of really cool things and written songs that you've probably heard and didn't realize that he wrote, and he's probably going to come up here and overwhelm us with great sounds. So give it up for Will Kimbrough.
I like Showroom Sounds. I like Printed Threads. This is good. And I've heard a lot of people saying that too. This is a good space. It sounds good in here. It looks good, even though I'm up here. And I'm glad to see y'all. Got some dear friends here I've done a lot of music stuff with. I'm from Lower Alabama, a place they call L.A. Mobile by name. And it's a beautiful place. It's a watery place. I was just in Newfoundland, up in Canada, for about a week. Well, actually for about 10 days. I played in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and St. John's, Newfoundland with Emmylou Harris. And although it's funny that you should have to use her last name, it'd be like, I was playing with Emmylou, they're like, Emmylou? I'm like, Emmylou Roberts. No. Only one of her. So we played. One thing I noticed when I was there is that it reminded me so much of Ireland and the coast of Scotland. And somebody that's been real important in my life, the great songwriter Jimmy Buffett, his roots are from Newfoundland. The French that were there, that went through the whole getting kicked out, and all the French and Indian War and War of 1812 kind of stuff that brought the Cajuns to the United States. So thank God they were here, right? We got all that food and all that music. So I grew up in Mobile. Oh, Dawg River run brown and slow. Down to the Gulf of Mexico. Ooh, mud bottom, hey. Honey, don't it feel so good just to be back home? Dive in early before sunrise. It get too hot by morning time. Ooh, mud bottom. Honey, don't it feel so good just to be back home? Oh!
reach for the cool water down below. Till it get real squishy between your toes, between your toes. Whoa, mud bottom, baby. Honey, don't it feel so good just to be back home? Dawg River run brown, run slow. Down to the Gulf of Mexico, Mexico, hey. Ooh, babe, mud bottom. Honey, don't it feel so good just to be back home? Honey, don't it feel so good, but just to be back home? Whoa, whoa.
It seems like it's good for creativity to be from such a messed up place like Alabama. You know, I grew up with all the music of Hank Williams. He was just from up the road from where I'm from and just around the corner from where my parents are from. My dad skipped school in 1953 and went to his funeral, Hank Williams Sr., and they had it at the football stadium. And all I could ever, because I haven't ever seen any pictures of it.
Here are the results from the CFL for week 7.
So, you know, that's what I was waiting for. How are those Newfoundlanders doing? For God's sake. I love that. That's great. So, Hank Williams' funeral, all I could ever picture was, you ever see pictures of Bob Marley's funeral? Well, you know, he died in 1981, I think, and then they were having a big, contentious political election in Jamaica at that time. Hard to imagine. And they had his funeral in a giant soccer stadium, football stadium. And that's all I can ever picture is that the hillbilly version of Bob Marley's funeral at the Crampton Bowl in Montgomery. And actually, I'm trying to, it must have been New Year's Eve 1992, and I was in this band called Will and the Bushmen. I actually had a conversation with a gentleman tonight about that band, and we played New Year's Eve there in Montgomery, and it was miserable. It was like our band had fallen from wherever we got to, which was about here, and we had gone down to here and played this place called Lou's Entertainment Complex, which I had an entertainment complex at the time myself. And so after the show, I went back to the Days Inn in Montgomery by I-65 and proceeded to drink a bottle of scotch. I don't even remember what brand it was. It was just medicine. I was medicating my miserable late 20-something baby boy soul. And then these two ne'er-do-wells from Mobile came, and they had a bag of ecstasy, which is a drug, not a state. And I don't remember this happening, but they poured some down my throat, powder. And the next thing I know, I'm driving the band van around Alabama. Everybody else is asleep. I'm not. And I tried to go to Hank Williams' grave. I woke up at 11 o'clock the next morning behind the wheel of the van, luckily in park at a railroad crossing with a Montgomery sheriff banging on the door who did not arrest me. And I do remember this as well. And you can go listen to this music just to get an idea of what I was listening to. I had a cassette. One side was the best of Les Paul and Mary Ford, which is like, you know. And the other side was Captain Beefheart Trout Mask Replica, which is like. Talking to the. You know. So that was the state of mind I was in. And nevertheless, I didn't get to Hank Williams' grave. There was the driver's side rearview mirror was torn off the van. And it's one of those things where I'm just lucky to be alive. And that was a long time ago. And don't know what that has to do with this song. But I was thinking about Alabama. I have a friend, Dean Owens, who's from Scotland. Now, most of the white people in Alabama are Scots-Irish, which means that the British forced them out of Scotland into Ireland to work on plantations, ironically, and then they went to Alabama and forced black people to work on plantations. Ain't that the way of a human nature? Caused the same cruelty to other people that was caused to you. No wonder we need Jesus, if it's even real. And I got a friend from Scotland, Dean Owens. He's from Edinburgh. Now, if you're from Edinburgh in Scotland, you're considered a Southerner. You ever thought about that? You're from the deep south of Scotland. You're almost to the border of England.
She asked me, when does the bad luck stop? When do we rise to the top? It's awful hard work pulling up the rear. She said, now honey, don't you want to be a big success? You can buy me a diamond and a wedding dress. I leaned in close, a whisper in her ear. I said, I like it down here with the hobos and the drunks. I like the hard-bitten rabble with the leaving trunks. Blood in my mud and sawdust in my beer. I like a wake-up call at 1:30. And if I had a job, I would get it done. I can catch real fine trash fish off the pier. Yes, I like it down here. Well, she rolled her eyes and she bit her lip and she let a skinny backbone slip, lit a Chesterfield and church keyed another beer. Well, she smiled and she said, I must admit that I always did like a man with grit. And she slapped my face, called out with a sneer. She said, I like it down here, boss, just as much as you. I like the bilge water and the bus tubs too. I got a three-legged dog and a one-eyed buccaneer. Like my homemade wine from a scuppernong, smoking guns and drinking songs. Big steam train with drunken engineers. Well, I like it down here. it down here with the hookers and the whiskey priest. I like the bat chain pullers and the shiny beast. I got a street life lover with a tattoo of a tear. I want a woman with a face like a question mark. You know she cleans up good when it's nice and dark. In a railroad flat with a monkey called Belvedere. Well, I like it down here. I like it down here.
So soon after my Hank Williams breaking off the window of the van pulled up at the railroad track, Captain Beefheart, Les Paul, and Mary Ford drug and alcohol extravaganza, our band broke up. And I was in this band at that point called the Biscuits. And I was in this band with a guy named Michael Grimes, known as Grimey, who later started a record store called Grimey's, and a club called The Basement, and a club called The Basement East. And he's really like a big fat pillar holding up the music community in Nashville, especially the rock and roll community. and a drummer named Tommy Meyer, whose TMJ in his jaw is so bad that it's just been debilitating for him. He doesn't really even play drums anymore. And then the other guitar player was Tommy Womack. He's a preacher's kid from western Kentucky. He's from Muhlenberg County. Daddy, won't you take me back to Muhlenberg County, down by the Green River where paradise lay? Well, I'm sorry, my son, but you're too late in asking. Mr. Peabody's coal train has hauled it away. That Muhlenberg County. And his daddy was a Cumberland Presbyterian preacher, which meant he preached primarily to coal miners and their families. And that was a formative experience for Tommy Womack, who became a huge Kiss fan, Clash fan, Kinks fan, and has been playing rock and roll ever since. And we wrote this song together about a classical musician, and this song got us signed to John Prine's label. So let me just cover some John Prine territory. Are we John Prine fans? Yeah. Good. And if you're not, then you got a lot to look forward to, except for seeing him live. But 1978, I had just seen Kiss and Blackfoot, Bad Company, and the Climax Blues Band in the weeks before. I was 13. And then another concert came on the radar. Jerry Jeff Walker and the Lost Gonzo Band, John Prine and his band, Keith Sykes. I was like, I'm going to that, because I've heard that song Pissin' in the Wind by Jerry Jeff Walker on the radio. And I've heard Dear Abby. I don't know who Keith Sykes is, but he's got to be cool if he hangs out with them. So it was $2 to get in at the arena, the Cow Palace of Mobile, the Asbestos Arena. And I was 13, and I went in there and I watched Keith Sykes, and then I realized, he wrote Coast of Marseille for Jimmy Buffett, and he's a real folk singer. And then I saw John Prine, whose band didn't show up because their U-Haul got stolen with all their gear in it. And so, lucky for me, John Prine played solo with a microphone on his guitar and a microphone on his voice. And, it changed my life. And then Jerry Jeff came out with the whole Lost Gonzo Band. He had an electric guitar. I don't know what he was thinking, but he kept dropping it between songs because he was, Jerry Jeff. And buckaroos, and drop the guitar, and it would make this loud clang, and then the steel player would play Amazing Grace. And I did think that was funny, and I was only 13, so I must have known I would be a musician or something with a sense of irony at age 13. So fast forward, it's funny how time, now it's 2024, this is from 1978 to 1992, so it's really not very long, right? 14 years? Is that the math? 14 years from seeing him, I'm signed to his record label. And it was this song that got us signed, and I like to play it. It's a crazy, from the era of the Georgia Satellites, and then subgroup greats like Webb Wilder and many others. Rock and roll, for all practical purposes, is dead right now. So I'm going to resuscitate it for a brief 3 or 4 minutes, if that's all right. I mean, the whole idea of going, is kind of dead. And I understand it's an archaic thing, but having just got back from Newfoundland and spent a lot of time in a silent coastline, I like archaic things. So, and I like Chuck Berry. I've got my shirt that says "Send More Chuck Berry," which is a reference to when they put the Chuck Berry record on the time capsule and sent it off into space. This is what the aliens responded with. So.
Peasant couple had a little musical son. When he was born, they named him Yo-Yo Ma. They didn't know he'd be the leader of the orchestra. Yo-Yo Ma, little cello playing son of a gun. Yo-Yo Ma, playing cello all night. Yo-Yo Ma. Yo-Yo Ma, playing cello all night. Yo-Yo Ma. Yo-Yo Ma. I said Yo-Yo Ma, playing cello till the break of dawn. Yo-Yo, he became a very famous man. One night in Australia and the next in Japan. He got them long-legged groupies of the classical kind. Got the sole intention of blowing Yo-Yo's mind. They said rising up that pole, Yo-Yo, and play it all night long. Yo-Yo Ma, playing cello all night. Yo-Yo Ma. Yo-Yo Ma, playing cello all right. Yo-Yo Ma. I say Yo-Yo Ma, playing cello till the break of dawn. All right. People should be doing this everywhere. I say Yo-Yo Ma, playing cello all night. Yo-Yo Ma, Yo-Yo Ma. I say Yo-Yo Ma, playing cello all right. Yo-Yo Ma, Yo-Yo. I say Yo-Yo Ma, playing cello till the break of dawn.
So we made a record for John Prine's record label. We bought a van. We got an advance of exactly $4,000, and we bought a van from Jay Joyce, who was in a band called Iodine, who's now a world-famous country music producer. Go figure. He was Iggy Pop's guitar player. He was John Hyatt's guitar player. He played guitar on One Headlight by Jacob Dylan and the Wallflowers, and then he became a world-famous country producer. And I'm sure that the world-famous country acts he produces are very glad to have him. And I don't know if he even remembers that we bought that van from him. But we briefly toured as much as we could, and then I met my wife. And she's still my wife. And, yeah, that's a good thing. No, it's okay. You can applaud. But and so I quit the band. I was ready to go solo. And so I spent about 6 months living off the money I had from selling my house in East Nashville, which I should have kept. But recorded, I had a 4-track cassette recorder. I recorded about 100 songs on that. And then one day the phone rang, and it was Todd Snider, who's a singer-songwriter from Portland, Oregon. And I know some of y'all through him. And we had met previously at a music industry conference in Nashville where we were in a coat closet trying to get away from the record business people. And that very night, Todd got signed to Jimmy Buffett's label, Margaritaville, and I got signed to John Prine's label, Oh Boy Records. And so a couple of years later, Todd called me and said, Eddie Shaver, Billy Joe Shaver's son, the late, great Eddie Shaver from Waco, Texas, just up the road, down the road, down the road, down the road, down the road a piece. He couldn't go on the tour with Todd because he was going to play with his dad in their great band, Shaver. So I got the call. Next thing I know, somebody delivered a Maxell 90-minute cassette. I put my hand up. This is the international symbol for cassette. And it was Todd Snider, Songs for the Daily Planet. I put it in my player, and I said, well, I can play this music. It's got all kind of things that I can do. And so next thing I know, I go to Memphis and I rehearse with Todd Snider and his drummer and bass player, who were both named Joe, the Joes. And the next thing I know, they never said, you got the gig. There were no other guitarists there to audition. We played a show that very night at Newby's in Memphis. At the Daily Planet. And for the next few years, I played with Todd. And we had a fine time. And one of the people we met that I remember the most, and I'm still friends with his sister, he's passed on, Michael Moondog Webb. Moondog. And a lot of the rehearsing that we did was just sitting at Moondog's, drinking, smoking cigarettes, smoking dope, learning about life. Moondog's Tavern, that's where I'm gonna go. Moondog's Tavern, that's the only place I know. Moondog, you got everything I'm ever gonna need. Moondog's Tavern in Fraser, Tennessee. Sit down and I tell you about the friends he made, about the nights that he walked the line and all the mornings that he paid. He got thrown out of so many bars, he finally built one in his own backyard. He ain't been thrown out once so far, and his tab is always paid. Moondog's Tavern, I'm gonna go. Moondog's Tavern, well, that's the only place I know. Moondog, he got everything I'm ever gonna need. Well, Moondog's Tavern out in Fraser, Tennessee. At the same time, sitting there at Moondog's Tavern, right across the 4-lane road with a neutral ground was a giant trailer park. And there was always a couple sitting next to us at the little bar in Moondog's garage that he had turned into a speakeasy, looking across the street with a worried look on their face. And yet they never got up and went over there. They just sat with their Budweiser and their cigarette and looked and kind of shook their heads. And we noticed across the street, after
letting our eyes adjust to the dark, that all the doors of the trailers were open and the blue light of televisions were shining out and dotted out through the landscape of this trailer park in Fraser, Tennessee, the wrong side of the tracks in Memphis, were all these barely teenage boys with Metallica, Anthrax t-shirts on with the sleeves cut off, some of them spinning nunchucks, most of them smoking cigarettes, trying to look menacing, and just really looking pale and pimply and small. And finally I looked over at the couple and I said, "Do those kids go to school?" And they were like, and I said, "Are any of those kids your kids?" And they were like, and so well, rocket fuel, buddy, I'm running on rocket fuel. Flying high, feeling cool, buddy, I'm running. Well, my mama works and my dad's gone. I skip school here all day long. I burn my brain out singing this song. Got the doors wide open with the TV on. Rocket fuel, one more shot of that rocket fuel. Don't need work, don't need school, running like a rocket. Down the road, way out there, nothing waits because no one cares. It's a redneck bottom of the corporate stare, getting my kicks while I still don't care. Rocket fuel, one more shot of that rocket fuel. Don't need work, don't need school, running like a rocket. Well, rock and roll, you never did care if I sold my soul. You moved me like a holy roll, running on a rocket fuel. Rocket fuel, one more shot of that rocket fuel. Don't need work, don't need school, running like a rocket. I said, look out, mama, cause I'm running like a rocket. Look out, people, cause I'm running like a rocket. I'm running. We had a day off finally. Corpus Christi. Summer 1996. Rainy day. 10 times more humid than it is outside today. Weather I call Christmas in the Philippines. First song I ever wrote with Todd. It won't work this morning. I can't punch in. There's too many questions under my skin. My back is aching. I'm so confused, and I can't help but feeling just like I've been being used. I did like they told me, and I settled down. Now I'm going crazy. I've been working that job downtown. What do I do here? Why do I stay? Who are all these people I check in with every day? I need room to think this over. I need a ride to Horseshoe Lake. I want to feel like it makes a difference. Oh, a difference one man make. They say that one man makes some money, oh, and one man makes some time. I need like to make up my own mind. Now I don't need a psychic, and I don't need a shrink. I need some time away from all this. I could use a drink. How did I get here? Where will I go? And tell me, why am I so haunted by every little thing that I don't know? I need room to think this over. I need a ride to Horseshoe Lake. I wanna feel like it makes a difference. Oh, what difference will one man make? They say that one man makes some money, or one man makes some time. I need some time to think this over. I like to make up my own mind. I need time to think this over. I wanna make up my own mind.
Now, right around that same time, we played in New Orleans at Tipitina's, which is one of the great clubs of the world, one of the great music clubs. And Todd was signed to Margaritaville Records. And the owner was named Jimmy Buffett. And at the same time, Jerry Jeff Walker had a place in the French Quarter. They were both in town, so when we played at Tipitina's that summer of '96, they both came out to the show, and they both got up on stage and played with us, and it was a lot of fun. And then we went backstage, which is roughly the size of this oriental rug on this stage, and not nearly as nice. It's one of those dressing rooms where if you sit on the couch, you need penicillin. And there was no beer, no wine, no tequila, no rum. There was nothing back there but just an old, one of those igloos with the waffle top that's the size of the back of a boat, with nothing in but water that had been in there for I don't know how long. It didn't smell good. New Orleans will make things grow in anything that is left sitting, things will grow on it and in it. So there were wigglers in there, etc. So we left that alone. But I found myself in a space about this size with about 300 people crammed in there because everybody wanted to be backstage with Todd, Jerry Jeff, and Jimmy Buffett to party. The party of the century was going to happen. No, nothing was happening. However, I was pushed up against the wall, and there was Jimmy Buffett right next to me, and I said, well, I might as well introduce myself. Jimmy, I'm Will. I was playing on stage with you tonight. Todd's guitar player. I'm from Mobile, Alabama. He said, you're another escapee, aren't you? I said, yes, sir. And then I went about my merry way. Todd, we toured another year. We did had wonderful times, and then he got dropped from the record label, which was basically MCA Records, working for the MCA, just like Leonard Skinner, and so we all went home. And then I got hired by various wonderful people, Kim Ritchie, all these other folks, Josh Rouse, and then Rodney Crowell called me one day, and he's from Houston, Texas. East Houston. He said my guitar player up and joined the Eagles. And I said, well, good for him. And he said, I need a guitar player, and I haven't hired one in 15 goddamn years, and I'm terrified. But my friend Seamus says, you won't play all over my shit. And I said, well, I'll give it a shot. So he came over. Next thing I know, Rodney Crowell's sitting in my house playing me all these songs, and I'm playing along. And he goes, well, you'll do. I'll have Donovan call you, and we'll go on the road. So for the next 7 years, I was out on the road with the great Rodney Crowell. And right in the middle of that time was when Jimmy Buffett inexplicably got back in touch with me. And I got the call, and it was, I want to hear some songs. And I was like, I'm glad I didn't ask, are you sure you're wanting to call me? And so I just put CDs in the mail and FedExed them up to Sag Harbor in the Hamptons, which is in New York. Sag Harbor. Where the most successful people live. So I sent them these songs, and I didn't hear anything for 3 or 4 months, and then 3 months later, the phone rang, and it was from a representative of Margaritaville Records or whatever, and they said, Mr. Buffett would like to record these 2 songs. And I said, well, please tell him. I said, yes. And then I didn't hear again for another 3 or 4 months, and then I got a call and said, Mr. Buffett would like you to come down to Key West in January and play on the album. And I said, well, tell him. I said, yes. And so I went down there, and we made this record called License to Chill, which is pretty funny. And if you ever listen to the Beastie Boys, because they had an album called License to Ill. But anyway. And this is the song that we recorded at the end of the session. Jimmy Buffett makes a record in a week, like Monday through Friday, and then you're done. Everybody goes home. And even if you want to stay another week in Key West in January, it's like, well, you guys did a great job. Now get on back to the winter. And so I wrote this song in the neonatal intensive care unit at Baptist Hospital in Nashville, Tennessee. And I was not trying to wake up tiny babies, but my tiny baby, youngest daughter, both my daughters were in the NICU. So if you are a NICU nurse or doctor, or you know someone, please tell them I said thank you, because NICU nurses are angels that walk this earth for real. And but I was so excited to have 2 daughters, both of them coming home, that I couldn't sleep that night. We spent the last night, when she was just an ounce away from being 4.5 pounds and getting to go home in the state of Tennessee. So I went in the bathroom and wrote down lyrics on a piece of paper towel that was hanging from a dispenser. And I stuffed it in my pocket, and thank God I didn't put it in the wash. I knew how it went. I wrote the song in my head, and it goes, I'm a piece of work, I'm iron and lace, shy right up there in your face. All dumbfounded, stubborn as an ass, sharp as an arrow in a pile of glass. I'm a sweetheart, genius, reckless jerk, and Lord have mercy, what a piece of work. Well, the Lord made me on a long thin limb, made sure I'd remember him or her in the middle of a long dark night. Creation, crazy, dead sheet white, made in the image of a lion shot lamb. I am who the hell I am, ever better, bad to worst, down to the letter. I'm a piece of work. I'm a piece of work, I'm an angel's fiend, bathed in lavender and gasoline, scared, brave, shallow in an ink black well, lightly brown in the fires of hell, and wicked, holy, full-on fake, best known for my big mistake. I'm zen, wise, peaceful, gone berserk. I said, good God Almighty, what a piece of work. I'm a dreadful sight and I just don't care. Spent all morning pulling out my hair, woke at dawn with a crazy spin, half the day trying to glue back in. And Mother Bloody Mary, please wipe that smile right off your knees. I'm the CEO of the mailroom clerks, and good God Almighty, what a piece of work. Yeah. I'm a lovesick boy, cloth cap, caviar, and corduroy all over the map, or just lost in space. Filthy mind in a quiet boy's face, and heels of a head down straight on through. And watch out, woman, I'm gonna get to you. I'm a gladiator with a minder. Come on, we'll see you a little later. A piece of work. Piece of work. Hey. Yep. So. Back and forth with this guy, and raised a family and went on the road with Radney, went on the road with Emmylou, toured all over the place in a little rent-a-car by myself, planes, trains, and automobiles. And but every time Mr. Buffett wanted to make a record, and I'd like to say that as someone who grew up going to see Prine and Jerry Jeff, but also, Kiss and Bad Company, I grew up, and by the early 80s, I was enthralled with bands like The Clash, and of course, years before that, the Sex Pistols, and all the American music, the Replacements, Husker Du, the Dead Kennedys, the Minutemen, but also bands like R.E.M., because they were all riding around in shitty vans and wearing their flannel shirts and putting out their own records until, the big labels picked them up and tempted them with the lucre, and but Jimmy Buffett, when you look at the story, is maybe not his music, but his business was as punk rock as it gets. He got an advance from a major label in about 1970, and he drove down to Key West and bought a little boat, which he used to smuggle marijuana and basically live on his boat. And when the record label called, and I guess called somebody in the neighborhood to go down the wharf and get him on the payphone, "Where's the album?" He said, "I'm sorry, I bought a boat." And then after years of being on record labels and seeing that the returns were always backed up by spreadsheets that showed they didn't owe him any money, he started his own label. John Prine did the same thing, and they did this way back in the 80s before anybody else was doing it. And so to be around those free-spirited people, and there's still plenty of them left, but it's just a different time, so it seems different because it is. And I was talking to somebody last night who actually booked me in Arkansas, and he's a big Buffett fan, also a big fan of mine, and he was telling me how he only likes the old stuff, and I was about to say, well, all I worked on was the newer stuff, but my ego can handle it, and I was like, well, yeah, the old stuff is the stuff that's in the forefront of everybody's minds that's old enough to remember, 1974, So anyway, we started writing together. And like I said, I was out there with Radney, Emmylou, and if I've ever wondered why I did all that guitar playing for other people and not just out here playing my own songs, well, if Emmylou Harris called you and wanted you to sing harmony with her and play guitar on a Fender Telecaster, would you say no? If Rodney Crowell asked you the same thing, would you say no? So I said yes. And I hounded Jimmy Buffett as tastefully as I could. I had his email address. I'd send him a message every couple of weeks. Hey, how's it going, man? And I started sending him songs, and eventually he responded and said, I'd like to write. Are you ready to write? I said, yeah. So, of course, he flew me down to St. Bart in the middle of the winter, and we wrote 4 songs in 36 hours. Not that it was a speed contest, but I had to go to Scandinavia, and he had to go surfing. So... I've been up around the stratosphere, 31,000 feet. I'm gonna fly on out of here on wings that you can't see. And if you're ever gonna fly without fear, you're gonna have to learn to love the atmosphere, and you gotta learn to use those wings that you can't see. I've been skiing on the mountains of the moon all weekend long. I've been looking out for life on Mars, singing my favorite songs.
'cause all these things could be yours too if you just take another point of view. Everybody got a pair of wings that they can't see. I've got wings that you can't see. I have wheels on my feet. Way up high, I feel so free. On these wings that you can't see. I don't need no plane ride, I don't need no airport line. I can hang around at treetop flyer level all day long, yeah. Now I'm looking down on tiny cars, tiny swimmers swimming around pools and yards, all on account of these wings you can't see. I got wings that you can't see. I have wheels on my feet. Way up high, baby, feel so free. On these wings that you can't see. Well, maybe if you try and open up your mind, you might learn some things. God only knows what you might find floating on those wings. Say, you can try to fly away from all your problems. I'm here to tell you it's not the way to solve them. I can only help you with the wings that you can't see. I got wings that you can't see. I have wheels on my feet. Way up high, baby, feel so free. On these wings that you can't see. You have wings that you can't see. Silver wings are just like Merle and me. Way up high, baby, feel so free. Won't you come on, take a little taste of freedom, high up in a cloudland kingdom. Take a little trip on the wings. Take a little trip on the wings. Take a little trip on the wings that you can't see.
Somewhere in the 2000s, I started producing records for people. Got to produce a couple of records for Todd Snider. One that I love, two I love particularly, East Nashville Skyline and The Devil You Know. Great records, and I just got to be there with him when he knew exactly what he wanted to do. He just needed me to direct the musicians to do what he wanted them to do. It was a wonderful experience. And other times I booked this studio in Muscle Shoals, Alabama called Fame. And it's pretty famous for where Aretha Franklin did all her greatest hits and Wilson Pickett. And then all these other songs, all those other one-hit wonder, you know. Starting all over again, it's gonna be rough. So rough, but we're gonna make it. Mel and Tim, what a great band name. Hi, we're Mel and Tim. Starting all over as friends, it's gonna be tough, so tough, but we gonna make it. And then, they had that song, I'm Your Puppet, by James and Bobby Purify. Now, that's a cool name right there. What if your last name was Purify? But it's not. So I was working down there, and we needed a keyboard player, and I was going to do it myself, but I can kind of do one-handed, one-fingered keyboards, and we needed a real keyboard player. And I said, man, wouldn't it be cool if we got Spooner, who played on all those Aretha records and played on all those Wilson Pickett records and played on Starting All Over Again, and I played on I'm Your Puppet, and then the engineer said, "He'd come play for $100 a song." And I said, well, who's got his number? I got it. I already called him. So next thing, Spooner comes in. He's got one of those Wurlitzer electric pianos, one of the old ones that are tan colored, just like Ray Charles when he did. he did, what's it called? His biggest hit of all time on the Wurlitzer piano. But anyway, Spooner came in with the Wurlitzer under one arm, and then it has these chrome legs that screw in, and he had them in a Glad garbage bag. And I was like, I like this guy. This guy played on all Aretha's greatest songs, all Wilson Pickett's greatest songs. Played with Bob Dylan, played with Neil Young, you know, blah, 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 blah. Even played with Cher. And he comes in with a garbage bag with this is a man with no ego, nothing to prove. And so, fall in love with Spooner. And wrote a little piece of music in honor of Spooner, and I put some lyrics to it in honor of my wife, Jessica. And then I ended up putting it out on a record of mine, and I sent a copy to Jimmy Buffett, and he was like, I'm cutting that song. And he actually tried to get Brittany Howard from the Alabama Shakes to sing on it. And she was like, no, Jimmy Buffett, I'm not singing on your fucking record. But he tried, and that's the beauty of that guy. So, and one of the things I love about it, now this man has retired, so we're about to do these Coral Reefer Band shows the first weekend of August in Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio. And I'm an honorary Coral Reefer, so I get to, they needed somebody to sing lead on about 5 songs, so they got me. Of all the people they could get, they got me. What were they thinking? But we did Jazz Fest, and it was amazing to sing in front of 40,000 people, singing lead. It was like, wow. I don't know what's happening here, but I like it. So Buffett cut this tune. Michael Utley, who's now retired, the great Michael Utley, who played with Aretha Franklin, who played with Tony Joe White, who played with Chris Christopherson, and was in the Dixie Flyers, who was the house band at, Tom Dowd's studio in Miami, where Derek of the Dominoes recorded Layla, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The Bee Gees recorded Saturday Night Fever, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, big time shit. I wrote this little song for Spooner and Jessica, and Buffett recorded it, and Michael Utley plays one of the best organ solos you'll ever hear on there, because we cut him loose and said, do your thing, do your Mississippi church R&B thing. So he's not here to do it with me, but we can imagine it.
You give me all you got, and that's a lot. I understand I'm a lucky man. To have you in my life, you make me feel so free, soulfully. I hope you'll sing on the chorus, because that's all you got to do is go soulfully. I know you can be tough, just enough, or you're tender too. Know just what to do, give me what I need. Soulfully, just like this. Soulfully, smiles and laughter. Soulfully, words so kind. So, here ever after. So, say that you'll be mine. You know that I send up a prayer, send it way up there. A prayer of gratitude to give my thanks for you and all the love you bring. Yeah. Soulfully, soulfully, smiles and laughter. Words so kind, yeah. Soulfully, here ever after. Say that you'll be mine. Up in your arms, all your loving charms, your kisses, oh so sweet, your gift to me, soulfully, soulfully, smiles and laughter, soulful words so kind, soulfully, here ever after, say that you'll be
about 15 minutes before y'all started showing up, I didn't have a guitar that was working. I played last night in Bentonville, Arkansas, and everything was hunky-dory, and I got here today, and everything was nothing. And so thank you for saving the day. It sounds good in here, too. Let's have a hand for the sound and the sound man and people making it happen. Back to my friend Tommy Womack, who's from Muhlenberg County. Daddy, won't you take me back to Muhlenberg County? Famous for his band Government Cheese from Bowling Green, Kentucky. We wrote this song in his little music room down there in Creve Hall neighborhood of Nashville one day. I brought the idea to him. He kind of puzzled him a little bit, not the kind of song he would typically write at the time. I said, I want to write a song about my mom and dad. You want to help me and write about your mom and dad? And instead of trying to tell these two parallel but different stories of his parents who were way older than my parents, and Tommy was an oops baby. He's got siblings that are 15 years older than him. And his parents, as he would say, got married the day Hitler invaded Poland. And then he was born in like 62, so, you know, they were older and had a whole different experience. But his parents were the son and daughter of sharecrop tobacco pickers from western Kentucky. My parents were from lower Alabama near the Mississippi line. And one of the things I learned over time of telling people all over the world that I'm from lower Alabama, they just don't know what that is. And if you're in Europe with country music fans and you say Hank Williams is from there, they'll go, oh, you know, they know, yes. But most people are saying, I think I've been through there on the way to New Orleans or on the way to Florida. And that's okay. But it kind of gives you an advantage as well when nobody really understands where you're from, because you can really say anything to them and they'll believe you. And that's kind of a joy in life. And that's how this song came about. And this is I'm running through a few of these songs that Jimmy Buffett cut because it was just such a great experience to send a song to him, and the guy was such a joyful character. When he liked something, he would send you a message or call you. And this song, he called me from the road. He was driving the back way. Now, this guy went to Auburn University in 1967 for 1 quarter, and then he started his music career. And he was driving the old back way, pre-interstate, from Mobile to Auburn, the way he would have driven when he went to school in 67, just to see the country where he drove through, what it was like to go 55 miles an hour or whatever. And he called me and said, God damn it, Will, I'm nobody from nowhere. I'm going to record that song. And then he said something that was so old school that I still remember it. He said, tell your wife to get some new living room furniture. I said, okay, Dean Martin. I'll tell the little lady to do that. But, you know, so we always have that joke about it. But this is called Nobody from Nowhere. I love the part about that says hello. This is a song that says hello, great big world. I'm nobody from nowhere you would have ever heard of anyway. Ain't no city way down there you could have heard a pin drop any time of day. I'm not sorry, I'm not sad. It might take a whole day just to drive out here and visit. Not to worry, not too bad. Well, there's nothing much to do, but that's not such a hardship, really, is it? When you're waiting for a car to drive by, just so you can wave hello, hello, hello. Staring at a starry night sky, 'cause you've been dreaming of some place that you got to go. Hello, say hello, hello. Till that day comes, I'll be here, alone without a care. Nobody, nobody, nowhere. Nobody. I'm nobody
yourself anyhow. Ain't no city way down there. You could have heard a pin drop, baby. With his P.O. box and a four-way stop, there's farms and fields and cows, and we're just waiting for a car to drive by, just so you can wave hello, 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 hello. Staring at a starry night sky, 'cause you've been dreaming of some place that you got to go. Hello, hello, hello. Till that day comes, I'll be here, alone without a care. Nobody, nobody, nowhere. For a car to drive by, just so you can wave hello, hello. Staring at a starry night sky, 'cause you've been dreaming of some place that you got to go. Hello, hello. Till that day comes, I'll be here, alone without a care. Nobody, 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 no, nobody, nowhere. For a car to drive by, just so you can wave hello, hello. Thank you so much. So, what do I got here? I thank God for this Martin guitar. Let's see what I got. So I'll just wrap this portion of this show up by saying that for 20 years I would get the call from Jimmy, "Are you ready for some homework?" And it was the kind of homework you wanted to get. Writing a song with Jimmy Buffett, storyteller for the ages, and just a joyous, curious, open-hearted, open-minded person. We wrote songs with people from Africa. We recorded with artists from Africa. We recorded with Bill Withers, and Mark Knopfler, Ralph McDonald, Billy Payne from Little Feat, the band Gomez from England. Jimmy would ask anybody, and most of the time they said yes. I got to play slide banjo with Tumani Diabate on the kora, the African harp, and
Nobody. Who puts those things together? Maybe Ry Cooder. But nobody thinks of Jimmy Buffett as that because they go to the concert and it's a Parrot Head party, and that's great. But he was also interested in music too. And so the last 2 records that I got to make with him, Life on the Flip Side and Equal Strain on All Parts, 2019, 2023, that whole time he was being treated for Merkel cell carcinoma. That's a long time to do chemo. That was a man who wanted to stay alive because he loved it so much. And both times, 2019, Christmas time, he called me, "Are you ready for some homework?" And we wrote 4 or 5 songs and recorded an album. And then 2020 happened. And then we all went haltingly at first and then full bore back to work on the road. Everybody went back to their, some people never went back to the office and just worked from home. Some people just retired. The world changed in 2020, big time. And Christmas 2022, I was in Lynchburg, Virginia, of all places, playing a house concert for my friends Van and Polly, who I saw last night in Bentonville, Arkansas. And they're travelers, And I was talking to my daughter on the phone after the show, hanging out in their house, eating soup, drinking tea, drinking wine, telling stories, talking about I got a call from my daughter, and it was about to be Christmas break for her senior year in college. And so I was talking to her, and Jimmy Buffett called me, and I let it go to voicemail because I was talking to my kid. And I called him back, and he let it go to voicemail. So I texted him. I said, "What's up?" And he said, "Are you ready for some homework?" And I was like, "Yes." And so the Christmas holidays of 2022, we had house guests, and I wanted to be a nice guy. I'd been on the road. I'm on the road 200 days a year. I'm trying to be there at least during the holidays for my family and my friends who are in town from the Bay Area. But I was chomping at the bit because Jimmy had, by that point, he called me on the 11th of December, and by the 19th of December, I hadn't gotten a chance to work on any of these songs. And he confided in me and said, "I can't get together with you in person. I've got to go to Boston and get treated. I got to go to Houston and get treated. I'm always in the air in a plane trying to go get treated for this shit." And so, but here's the ideas. Run with these 3 ideas and send me what you got. Just make an iPhone recording. Send it to me. And so the 19th came, and our house guests came to us and said, "We're so sorry. We have to work on our computers today for work." And I said, "There is a Santa Claus." And I sat down, and I will tell you, there's a place in Waxahachie, just south of here, called Eagle Oak, and they do post-traumatic growth work with combat veterans and first responders. And I've been writing songs through this program, not just there, but all over the country, from Maine to Seattle to California to Florida, all points in between, 60 days a year on the road doing this work. But when Jimmy sent me the idea for this particular song, there were 2 others that day. A song called Close Calls that he wanted to sing, tell a couple more stories about his close calls with peril in his life. One was he got in a bar fight in Nashville in the early 70s with Buford Pusser. And, of course, he got his ass beat. And so I got to write the line, "Well, I fought Buford Pusser in a honky-tonk joint. He whipped my ass, that's beside the point. Close calls, lucky just to be alive." So I wrote that one that day and sent it to him. And then he said, "I want to write a song about when I was living in New Orleans in 1966 and 68, and I was playing in a bar band on Bourbon Street, and barely able to make my $40 a month rent, but it taught me how to do what I learned how to do. So we, followed my dancing feet to the University of Bourbon Street. I sang, hey, pocket weight, at a streetcar headed uptown. I went to class every day. I never wore a frown. I was taught by the Neville brothers, Benny Spellman, and a whole lot of others. That brass band blew my mind when I joined in a second line. So I worked on that one that day. And then I had this third idea from Jimmy, and he would take a picture of his date book with handwriting and he would make a PDF of like a newspaper article or a photograph and send it to you with like some handwriting on it, and it would just say, it was like a storyboard for a song, but there was no music, there was only a few lines of lyrics. But for this song, I thought of that post-traumatic growth work, not because I thought Jimmy had PTSD or because he was really unhappy or anything like that, but he said, I want to write a song about for someone who's struggling, for someone you love who you want to help, and show them the surface because they're down there drowning and they can't see which way is up anymore. And he said, I took the Navy diving course, and they keep telling you as you get closer and closer to the final test, where they drop you out of a helicopter in the open ocean with your full gear on, and you drop like a stone into the ocean and turn somersaults until you don't know which way is up. And they say, bubbles up, follow the bubbles to the surface. And I thought it was a beautiful metaphor, and I kept thinking of these veterans and first responders that I write with, because it's so inspiring to work with people that are struggling and are trying to get better. And just to have them trust you with their words. And because the rule for what we do is finish the song, use their words, and of course, most importantly, don't fuck it up. That's what Darden Smith told me. He's a Texan too. He lives in Austin. He's from Houston originally. He taught me how to do this. He said, you got to listen and not judge, and write down what they say, and not think how you could change it and make it cooler in a song, but sing it as close as you can to exactly what they said. So I took all the stuff Jimmy wrote me, and I did that. And it was such a wonderful thing, because first thing I thought I had been listening to this record called Living and Dying in 3/4 Time. And I thought, well, maybe I'll start in this 3/4 time, which a snarky musician has since explained to me that this is actually 6/8 time. I said, thanks a lot, bozo. So I started in this time, and now the other thing that we had bonded on was this particular Duane Allman slide guitar solo on a record by a band called Cowboy. And they were on Capricorn Records, which was the Southern rock label. It was the label of the Allman Brothers, and then later Marshall Tucker and Wet Willie and all these other bands, Sea Level. And Chuck Leavell's band, he plays with the Rolling Stones now. You might have heard of him. So Duane plays acoustic slide guitar on this song. It's called Please Be With Me. And it was later covered by Eric Clapton. But the best version is Cowboy's version with Duane playing slide. So we bonded on that, and we said this song should have that acoustic slide like Duane Allman on it. And so, but I took it upon myself to make it in this time. And the only thing that really changed was the details of the lyrics. Because the note I got from Jimmy, in his manner of showing you his joy first before anything else, which was, wow, exclamation point. Bubbles up is great. I can't wait to work on the lyrics. I'm saving the other two ideas like pralines on my pillow for dessert. I've never gotten a note from a fellow songwriter. Usually in Nashville, it's like, I think the key's wrong for your voice, so we need to work on the bridge, and the rhymes are just not as tight as they could be, and it's just like, on you. So anyway, this is the guy who took his record advance and bought a boat and smuggled weed with it and didn't say sorry.
When this world starts reeling from that pressure drop feeling, just treading water each day, there's a way to feel better, be well set to weather the storms till the sun shines again. When your compass is spinning and you're lost on the way, like a leaf in the wind, friend, hear me when I say bubbles up, they'll point you toward home. No matter how deep, how far you roam, they will show you the surface, the plot and the purpose. So when the journey gets long, just know that you are loved. There is light up above, and the joy, there is always enough. Bubbles up. We thought maybe you could have a little of that Dwayne thing. To my friends who were jolly when melancholy knocks, sometimes they let her in. Sit and share stories of the flops and the glories. It ain't half as bad as the bends. Sometimes living is a struggle, multiplied double, but they love it too much for the party to end. Bubbles up, they will point you toward home. No matter how deep, how far you roam, they will show you the surface, the plot, and the purpose. So when the journey gets long, just know that there is light up above, and the joy is always enough. Bubbles up. Let's pop a cork to the rough and the right, to the bright blazing days and the sweet starry night. Yeah. Bubbles up. Bubbles up, they will point us towards home. No matter how deep or how far we roam, they will show you the surface, the plot and the purpose. So when the journey gets long, just know that you are loved. There is light up above, and the joy is always enough. Bubbles up. Bubbles up.